a song for ya.
You're listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I will do one episode for each song the band recorded in the studio. However, this is a fan podcast and not band endorsed. It's more of a tribute to their long history, well beyond just the hits, and my way of giving something back to a band that has given so much to me. Let's dig in! Hello and welcome to Season 26, Episode 8 of Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and originally I covered this song with the mighty Kevin Brown, podcaster extraordinaire. Has 3 shows he does, plus other shows that he's a guest on. I don't know how he has time to have a family and all that stuff, but he's on it. And as I'm recording this in real time, which is the 22nd of April in 2025, just yesterday. And again, I know it's like months later, but seriously, congratulations to Kevin, whose show, The Tom Petty Project, just hit 100,000 downloads. Very, very cool. You know, it is tough as an indie show to have that kind of just even people noticing that you exist, especially in the sea of podcasts that we have. Even now, when I'm recording this, I would imagine by the time this comes out, there'll be so many more podcasts. It'll be ridiculous. Really, really difficult to get that kind of attention. I know for a long time, I really struggled with just getting an audience at all with the Haskincast podcast because I wasn't attaching to anything in particular. I was doing interviews with people in entertainment, but they weren't like, highly known people. I was doing a lot of behind the scenes people, local actors, stuff like that, people in Cirque du Soleil who, their shows are known, but them as individuals are not necessarily like global names, right? And they should be because they work hard. They're amazing performers. And that was kind of the point of the show initially, was I really wanted to highlight that. And it was very tough for a long time to really grow an audience. I have one now, quite thankfully. But for Kevin to achieve that is absolutely amazing with the Tom Petty Project. I did that with Uriah Heep, the Magicians podcast as well. I remember when I saw that I hit 100,000 downloads, I was like, holy crap, that is pretty amazing. And then I was kind of holding off moving the podcast to, I had it on, I think it was Podbean at the time. And I wanted to get away from Podbean and I moved it to Spotify, but I waited until I hit that 100,000 because I knew once I moved it, those statistics would not all come with me and I wouldn't know when it happened. So very grateful that I kept it there. Very grateful to everyone who's listened to this. My patrons, my people who comment, my people who like and share, all of you, thank you so much for the time that you spend listening to me dig into the amazing catalog of Deep Purple. I know I'm doing a lot of shows. 4 shows a week is a lot to listen to, but it's great. They're shorter shows, great for your morning commute, your dog walk, your morning run, wherever you find it comfortable. And sometimes people get a little bit behind. They tell me I'm 3 or 4 episodes behind. You know what? That's fine because the show's not going off the air. So you can just listen to it whenever you have time to catch up. So that being said, I enjoy being part of your routine. That means a lot to me. And I'm excited to get into my solo review of No One Came, the final track on Fireball, the final track on the proper album of Fireball, I should say. There are bonus tracks that I covered that we will get into. Have one more episode to do on this season here in the solo revisits. That would be I'm Alone, which I'm kind of angry at because since John and I recorded that, I have not been able to get that organ solo out of my head. Absolutely love it. It's so much fun, but we'll get to that on the next episode. For today, we're talking about No One Came. And here it is by Deep Purple. I just love the simplicity of this intro. I mean, it's really just a pulse. That's all we're getting. And we can tell it's heavy. It's thick. It's got a deep, strong sound to it. But it's just a pulse.
Maybe it's because I'm only starting. I think it won't take too long. Maybe it's because I can see got it wrong.
What's really amazing to me is how incredibly heavy the music sounds when we don't even have the full band playing the whole time. I mean, it's really just Roger and Ian Pace. I don't think we've even got Richie playing in there. We're getting some stabs from Richie and John, but I'm pretty sure it's just Ian and Roger. So that being the case, it sounds amazingly thick and heavy for just being the rhythm section of the band. And then, I love this just gritty vocal sound. I'm surprised now that I think about this. I said in the No 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 episode how one of the great things for me about that song is when I get like the flu and it's the only time I can sing it well because it gives me that grit in my voice. I don't know that I've ever tried to sing this song when I'm sick, but this would be another one I feel I might be able to do because it's got that same kind of feel as No 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 as far as the vocals go, but it's also it's there's like no real screams. It's not very melodic, so I don't know. It's almost more rap than vocal, like singing. So I don't know. I might be able to do this one when I'm sick. So if I ever get the flu again, which I hope I don't, I'll have to give this one a shot.
Maybe I could be like Robin Hood, like an outlaw dressed all in green. Someone said, what's he gonna turn out like? Someone else said, never mind.
Okay, quick apology to Richie Blackmore. I do hear him playing some very staccato, distorted guitar notes there along with Roger. So that definitely is helping with the sound. I didn't really notice that before, but I'm hearing it now anyway.
Well, I was big and bold and more than twice as old as all the cats I'd ever seen. I grew my hair and bought a suit of shiny white. It wasn't cream. I shook and shivered and danced and quivered and stood on a mountaintop. No one came from my...
I love the change here. It just feels so completely different. The style changes. We get some rockin' keyboards here from John. They're a little bit in the background, but man, I love what he's playing. It's so much fun. He's just doing such a great job at rhythm keyboard here, and that's a style that he said he had to create very quickly, learning to play with Richie. And I feel like he's really contributing here, though. It's melodic, but it's really rhythmic too. And if you think back to like some of the stuff he played in Hush, which is much more staccato than what we're hearing now, but just that rhythmic feel that we're getting to the keyboards, that's what we're getting here. But then you add melody to it, and it sounds really good.
Miles around and said, man, your music is really hot. Well, I knew what they meant because I was a freak. Oh, my throat was tired and warm. My pretty face just looked out of place as they poured on the scorn. I wrote on you.
I love the way Richie's joining in with John for those stabs. It just gives them a little bit of a crunch, and then just kind of like goes back to that picking that we're getting that keeps that, the rhythm section going. It's amazing to me still how simple the music behind what the vocals are. And yet this song feels like it's so busy when it's really not.
Yellow paper from a man who was the king. He said my boy will have some crazy scenes. There weren't any scenes at all like he was talking about. Yeah, he must have been the king of queens. Well, I could write a million.
I'm looking at the waveform of the music, and it's not quite brick wall limited, but it is definitely hot as far as the signal goes. Even the bass drum sometimes seems to sound like it's clipping, or maybe it's the toms, because I'm really only hearing it on some of the fills. So maybe it's like the floor toms, or he's just really hitting hard. It's hard to say. I mean, he's not a big guy, but he does know how to get a good, strong sound out of the drums, because remember, he was playing before drums were really mic'd the way they are today and put through the PA system. Back in the time when he started, they had to really hit to be able to cut through the noise of everyone else and be heard as drummers. So he certainly has that technique to get a solid sound out of the drums. But yeah, I'm really sensing a little bit of maybe clipping even in the recording. Not so much the mix and mastering, because I don't feel like it's there, but sounds like it was pretty hot when they were recording.
Songs about the things I've done. never sing, so they never get sung. Well, there's a law for the rich and one for the poor, and there's another one for singers. It's die young and live much longer, and spend your money and sit and wonder. No one came from miles around and said, man, your music is really funky.
Now, I absolutely love that there's not a lot of vocal harmonies on this song. It's really, as far as I can remember, just on that "No One Came from Miles Around" part. So when you use them sparingly, they mean more when you do use them, which is why you have to be careful about overusing effects and things like that. It's a battle sometimes to make things sound interesting, but not give the listener fatigue or get annoyed with a lot of repetitive sounds. So I really like that they were sparing on this. The other thing too is this transition that we're going into, where the music kind of stops a bit and Ian Pace keeps it going. This is the same thing that we'll get later, where it does stop the song. So it's interesting to hear it keep going, because sometimes I forget where I'm at in the song and I'm waiting for it to just kind of stop the way it does later on. But no, Ian Pace keeps the tempo going and brings us into this next section. I'm sure I've said this before, but God, Richie is just in such top form here in this solo. I love that everyone else is just playing straight. You know, they're not adding a lot of stuff. This is really, for Roger, a very laid back song, because normally he is very melodic. He's throwing in a lot of things, but he is really just staying in the pocket. Even Ian Pace is not doing a lot of big drum fills right now. He's just adding a little bit of color, but not a whole lot. They're really just laying that bed for Richie to play John, joining in as well, very simply. And of course, now he's getting ready to do his solo. But man, this is just some stellar playing. And really, it's just Richie shining in this section, with everybody laying that solid foundation for him to do so. I mean, it's just a stunning solo. You can't go wrong with either Richie Blackmore or John Lord, especially in 1971. A couple things to point out, though. One, and I think Kevin and I talked about this sort of seemingly randomness of the kick drum and the hi-hat lifts. I love that, because you just don't know what to expect. It's like, here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm just playing in the moment on this particular take or combination of takes, or however it was done. And I love that, because if it was just a repeating pattern, it would get really stale. But it's kind of exciting and alive, because it's not okay, I'm going to lift it on the 1 and the 3, or just the 3 on every pass, or whatever. It's just kind of wherever. And the kick drums, being that they're on the off beat, they add just kind of a lot of excitement to the overall rhythm section. Then another thing, and I don't know if I've realized this or not, so this may be a new thing, but underneath the organ solo, there is a rhythm organ track. I can hear it in my left ear. A little faint in comparison, because obviously we're mixing the same sound on two different tracks, so they have to be distinct. I don't know that I ever noticed that before, but it sounds really good. I mean, it's just basically what he was playing before, but now it's underneath his own organ solo. And then when Ian Pace switches to the ride there, about 2/3 of the way through the organ solo, it really feels like the whole song just beefs up a notch, doesn't it? It feels more powerful, more purposeful, more energetic, even though we're playing at the same tempo. But that's what I mean, like a simple change in dynamics. You don't have to do a lot of grandiose changes all of a sudden, or, pile on a bunch of sounds. Sometimes just a simple change in the sound can change the feel of the song.
Well, I believe that I must tell the truth and say things as they really are. But if I told the truth and nothing but the truth, could I ever be a star? No.
An interesting dynamic note on what I'm hearing here, and I don't know if they did this earlier in the song, but John and Richie are playing those stabs, just that da-da, and John is playing it straight, and then Richie, though, is sliding down the neck at the end of the second stab, which is really nice. It adds a nice contrast between the two of them, and he just kind of like slides back into the rhythm, which is really nice.
Nobody knows who's real and who's faking. Everyone's shouting out loud. It's only the glitter and shine that gets through. Where's my Robin Hood outfit? Well, I've come and I've gone before your winking eye. And no one even cared enough to say goodbye. The money's good and the times you have fun and games galore, but you spend your money and you lie in bed forgotten and wonder what you did it for.
Now, you can hear a difference in this part. I guess you could consider it a pre-chorus, maybe? I don't know statistically what it would be, but it's a change from the main verse, and it's not the chorus. So I would say it's kind of a pre-chorus. And there's really, though, a change in this one as opposed to the previous ones. John's beefing up his playing here. I think they're bumping him up a little bit in the mix, but you're getting a lot more kind of playfulness out of the keyboard. And I think Richie's kind of joining him in that. So it's same part, but taken to another level, which is typical for them as the song builds towards the end.
No one came from miles around and said, man, who's he?
So this is the part I was referring to earlier, where we had this musical reconciliation and Ian Pace kept playing us into the solo. Now we're getting the point where the beat stops and we're going into something different before we come back into the beat again. I might owe a bit of an apology to John Lord as well. I was just thinking that, what I was hearing him play during, the verses in that was just those stabs, but he actually might be playing something with the left hand in the lower registers that's kind of jiving with the bass. Like he might be playing a rhythm there that I can't detect as him, because I'm not hearing it as a keyboard sound. That might be blending with the bass, and part of why that sounds so heavy. So if that is the case, I'm sorry, John Lord. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, this song. And this backwards piano part at the end here. It's really interesting how they recorded it. And if you have the 25th anniversary of Fireball, I can't remember if I played it on the show with Kevin or not. I know I played it for him, but I can't remember if it was on the show or after. But anyway, there is the entire reverse piano section that you can hear, but played forward. So you could hear it as they recorded it before they reversed it and put it in the song. And you can hear, the way that they're manually wobbling the tape to get a certain effect while he was playing. And he's just kind of playing gibberish, really. Just like whatever. It doesn't relate to the song. Obviously, it has to be in the same key, but notes wise, like it's not a solo that you could listen to going forward and go, yeah, that's a really good solo. He's just kind of playing whatever, knowing that they would reverse it and it would sound completely different. How much effort and strategy he put into getting this specific sound, I have no idea. He could have been very strategic. He could have recorded a bunch of stuff, reversed it and gone, okay, here's what I need to do to get what I want. Or he could have just said, you know what, I'm just going to play a bunch of stuff. Let's reverse it and see how it sounds. I don't know. What I do know is at the end of the day, it sounds killer. That's all I can say about that. But yeah, a lot of fun, this song. It's one that I didn't initially take to. I remember when I first started getting into this album, it was one that I liked, but I would often, like, I would hear the Mule and I would go back and listen to, or I would hear like the Mule and Fools and then go back and listen to the Mule again or Fools again. And I kind of ignored this song a little bit in the beginning. And then at one point I'm like, why am I ignoring this song? It's really good. I know I like it. And I sat down and listened to it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? No more skipping this one. It's a great song and it should be listened to every time I listen to Fireball. The band would start doing the song again in the Steve Morse era. They would do it live and do pretty solid versions of it. There are performances out on DVD that you can watch. They kind of do that thing where they all move together and, with the guitar and bass, the way that they lift it up at the same time, that sort of coordinated, like a synchronized swimmers type thing. But yeah, they do a great version of it and really cool translation for the stage. I would say this is a good song to play on stage. Obviously, the backwards piano part isn't there, but when that's kind of the thing about live music is you don't want to do it the way you did it in the studio. That's the difference. If you're just going to play what you played in the studio, why am I paying $80 to go see you, or $100 or $150 with all the fees and all that? It would be fairly pointless. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed my re-review of No One Came. I'll be back in the next episode with the final Fireball re-review track, I'm Alone, which I reviewed with John Matola from the Deep Purple podcast. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Have a great day. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, a tour of the entire Deep Purple studio recordings. Please remember to give the show a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Leave a comment and tell your friends. I also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. You can also write to me at smokeonthepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode and thanks for listening.